visiting vehicles or spacecraft to the International Space Station. And now coming into your view, you see the SAFER again. That's that simplified aid for EVA rescue. NASA astronaut Johnny Kim and JAXA astronaut Takoya Onishi are going to work to install that on Nicole Ayers. That SAFER is worn as a precautionary measure in the unlikely event that a crew member should become untethered from the International Space Station. The SAFER is essentially a jetpack that would allow them to get back to the International Space Station to retether themselves. And we are in a brief handover period between our satellites, but do expect to gain communication and view with the crew again here shortly. Here in the room, the team of Orbit 2 flight controllers are being led by NASA Flight Director Deanna Trujillo. She just completed a poll of the flight controllers here in the room for a go, no-go for depressurization. Everything looking good and on track for today's spacewalk, the 275th in support of space station maintenance, assembly, and upgrades. The main tasks of today's spacewalk are to install a modification kit in preparation for ongoing solar array upgrades.
No changes.
We copy all. Thank you.
Additionally, today's spacewalkers will relocate a communications antenna for visiting spacecraft to the orbiting lab. There you do see on your screen the boom or communications for visiting vehicle antenna and the relocation process that is going to take place. It's going to be moved about 1.5 feet, which will allow better redundancy for spacecraft as they visit the International Space Station. And also here on your screen is a depiction of the mounting bracket that will be built by NASA astronauts Anne McClain and Nicole Ayers during today's spacewalk before it is installed on the mass canister. All of this work is done in anticipation of a future spacewalk to install an ISS rollout solar array, or IROSA, on the 2A power channel of the International Space Station there in yellow. Previously, we have completed solar array upgrades on 4 of the other power channels, so we just have 2 more remaining at this time. And if you are just joining us this morning, we're continuing to bring you live coverage of a spacewalk outside the International Space Station to install a mounting bracket ahead of upcoming solar array installation. Today's spacewalkers are NASA astronaut Anne McClain, who will be wearing the spacesuit with the red stripes, as well as Nicole Ayers, who will be wearing the unmarked spacesuit. This will be the 3rd spacewalk for McClain and the very first for Ayers. Today's spacewalk will be the 275th in support of space station maintenance assembly and upgrades, and it will be the 3rd spacewalk of the year, but the very first for Expedition 73. Here on the ground, there is a team supporting our spacewalking duo being led by Flight Director Deanna Trujillo. At this time, McClain and Ayers are suited up in their spacesuits and are preparing for depressurization here shortly. We are in a brief handover period between our satellites, but we'll get views again of the crew here shortly. And if you're just joining us, we're continuing to bring you live coverage of today's Spacewalk, the 275th, in support of space station maintenance, assembly, and upgrades. We are in a handover period between our satellites, but we do expect to gain communications with the crew here in a little less than 8 minutes. So let's take a look at some of the tasks for today's Spacewalk.
Our day will start with astronaut Anne McLean as EV1 in the red stripes and Nicole Ayers as EV2. Nicole will carry an 8-foot long strut bag and Anne will carry the tool bag. Both crew members will translate to the port side of the International Space Station, heading to the work site of the Modification Kit Structure or MOD Kit. At that location, they will secure their two bags and begin the installation activity. Nicole will start the modification activity by removing the strut out of the bag to assemble the upper triangle. The upper triangle consists of two struts and a mounting bracket. Nicole will then hand the triangle to Anne, who will install it on the mast canister of the beta gimbal assembly or BGA structure. The crew will then proceed with the installation of the right lower strut and the right mid strut on the right side of the mast canister. After that, the crew will move to the left side of the mast canister to perform the same order of operations, beginning with the left lower strut, followed by the left mid strut. Once all the struts are installed, the crew will cover both mid-struts with multi-layer insulation or MLI and route the cables of the roll-out solar array in support of future spacewalks. This step concludes the MOD Kit installation. The next stop is the relocation of the Common Communications for Visiting Vehicle boom, or C2B2. The crew will begin by translating to the worksite located on the P3 truss segment of the integrated truss structure, also on the port side of the vehicle. The crew will start by removing the C2B2 boom from the base, attaching an extension to the base, and installing the boom at the end of the extension. This action shifts the antenna boom by 1.5 feet, clearing the antennas from structural blockage. These steps conclude the relocation of the C2B2 boom. Finally, Nicole translates back to the P4 location to pick up the tool bag, while Anne starts her translation back to the airlock. Shortly after, Nicole begins her translation back to the airlock as well. Both crew members will ingress the International Space Station through the airlock, completing their planned 6 hours and 30 minutes spacewalk.
And that was an overview of some of the tasks that we can expect during today's spacewalk. Today's team here in Mission Control Houston is being led by Flight Director Deanna Trujillo. The International Space Station is currently flying 271 statute miles off the west coast of Africa. Today's spacewalk will be the 275th in support of space station maintenance, assembly, and upgrades. It will be the third spacewalk for NASA astronaut Anne McClain and the very first for NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers. McClain has previously conducted 2 spacewalks, totaling 13 hours and 8 minutes. Today's spacewalk will be the third of 2025 and the first spacewalk for Expedition 73. McClain and Ayers arrived to the International Space Station on the SpaceX Crew Dragon Endurance on March 15th, following their launch the day prior. They are currently suited up and stepping through procedures ahead of exiting the airlock today. And there on your screen you do see a graphic of some of the spacecraft that are currently docked to the International Space Station. One of the tasks during today's spacewalk is to relocate a communications antenna, common communications for visiting vehicle antenna, just 1.5 feet over to provide better redundancy for communications for all of those visiting spacecraft that you did just see on your screen. Again, we are in a handover period between our satellites, but we'll regain communication and views of the crew here shortly. And right on cue, we do have a view inside the International Space Station of our spacewalkers today. NASA astronaut Anne McClain is wearing the spacesuit with red stripes, and NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers will be wearing the unmarked spacesuit today. Assisting on your screen is NASA astronaut Johnny Kim, as well as coming into view now JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi. They've helped to get McClain and Ayers suited up and get their SAFERs, or Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue, installed onto their spacesuits, and have performed checks to ensure that everything is as it should be ahead of depressurization. At this time, both McClain and Ayers are in the crew lock portion of the International Space Station. And as Onishi and Kim continue to step through procedures ahead of depressurization, crew is about 25 minutes down on the timeline today, so we are expecting the spacewalk to begin around 7:40 a.m. Central Time this morning. We mark the beginning of the spacewalk from the time that the spacesuits are switched on internal battery power. And we are seeing Onishi prepare to close the hatch. Some waves goodbye. See you soon, more like it. Kim and Onishi are continuing to work to get the hatch closed today. Following this, McLean and Ayers, who are in the crew lock portion of the International Space Station, will complete some communications checks before getting the go for depressurization. Inside the crew lock, the pressure is about 14.4 pounds per square inch. That eventually needs to get down to vacuum before the hatch outside the International Space Station can be opened and the crew can float out to begin their spacewalk. We are anticipating today's spacewalk to begin around 7:40 a.m. Central Time this morning and last approximately 6.5 hours. The main tasks for today's spacewalk are to install a modification kit in preparation for ongoing solar array upgrades to the space station, as well as relocate a communications antenna for visiting spacecraft to the orbiting lab.
Houston Airlock for EMA privilege, 76 and 77 are complete.
We copy. We'll put 78 through 80 in work. Airlock Houston, EV crew are hot mic'd on space to ground 1.
Airlock copies. So EV1 and EV2, you guys are now hot mic 2 on SG1, and for EV2 on UIA, check switch depress pump power is off, OFF.
Depress pump power is off, OFF.
Verify depress pump enable LED is on.
The enable LED is on.
It's on Airlock looking for go for step 84. Houston Airlock on 1 com check.
We have you loud and clear. How us talk?
Okay, loud and clear. Looking for go for step 84.
An excellent job this morning. You are go in step 84.
Copy, go to transition to the crew lock depress Q card. Okay, for EV crew members, we are now in a depress Q card, crew lock depress. For EV2 on UIA, switch depress pump power to on and wait 10 seconds for complete startup.
Depress pump power switch is on.
And
Okay, for EV2, you can open depress pump manual isolation valve and EV crew expect alert tone.
Pump man ISO valve is open.
Monitor suit P gauge less than 5.5.
DV1 copy. DV2 copy.
And McLean and Ayers did get the go for depressurization, so they're stepping through procedures with Onishi as well as the team here on the ground. Depressurization is underway. Pressure inside the crew lock is now at about 13 pounds per square inch. As a reminder, it does need to get all the way down to 0, or the equivalent of vacuum, before the airlock can be opened. Depressurization does take place in a 2-stage fashion. The pressure inside the airlock will get down to 5 pounds per square inch, at which point they'll pause depressurization to do a system check, make sure everything is configured properly before continuing to depress down to 0 or vacuum. Once it does get to vacuum, McLean and Ayers will conduct another suit and communication check with Mission Control Houston before they put their...
Houston on 1, can we read the star block in step 2 of the Q card?
Copy that. So for both EV crew, if suit P gauge is greater than 5.5, stop, depress, and check MCCH.
EV1 copy, suit gauges 5 and steady. EV2 copy and same, 5 and steady.
And again, once the suits are switched to internal battery power, that will mark the official start of today's spacewalk. Depressurization is continuing as expected inside the airlock. The pressure is now approaching 10 pounds per square inch. This view on your screen of NASA astronaut Johnny Kim on the left and Japan Aerospace Exploration astronaut Takuya Onishi, who have stepped through procedures to assist McLean and Ayers this morning to get suited up and now working through depressurization procedures as well.
For both crew members, when crew lock at 6.0, EV crew expect alert tone.
EV1 copy. EV2 copy.
Pressure inside the crew lock now approaching 8 pounds per square inch. As a reminder, once pressure reaches 5 pounds per square inch, depressurization will pause for some communications and systems checks. And if you are just joining us this morning, NASA astronauts Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers are in the process of getting Again, if you're just joining us this morning, NASA astronauts Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers are stepping through procedures to get the crew lock down to vacuum. The pressure inside is about 6.7 7 pounds per square inch. Today's spacewalk is the 275th in support of space station maintenance, assembly, and upgrades, and the main tasks will be to install a mounting bracket ahead of the installation of an additional set of International Space Station Rollout Solar Arrays, or IROSAs, as well as relocate a communications for visiting vehicle antenna called C2V2.
The next step is for EV2. When crew lock pressure is at 5.0, you can close depress pump manual isolation valve and EV expect alert tone.
Copy.
Pressure inside the crew lock now approaching 5 pounds per square inch. As a reminder, once 5 pounds per square inch of pressure is reached, there will be a pause in depressurization for some communications and systems checks.
For EV2, I'm not seeing the airlock key on my DCS anymore, so can you let me know when it's at 5?
Maybe we can switch data switch. We also have data, so we can tell you when to close. We are close.
Yep. See it now. It's 5.3.
Copy.
And we are seeing that the crew lock is now at 5 psi.
And ISO valve is closed.
Copy that. For both crew members on DCM, switch display switch to status until leak check question mark displayed, and hold yes for 2 seconds and follow displayed instructions for leak check.
Okay, EV1 is starting leak check. And leak check wait.
If you see if leakage high should be message, let us know.
Okay, copy.
And Ayers and McLean are now working through some procedures to do a leak check ahead of continuing depressurization down to vacuum.
EV1 is going go tracks ready to ETA. 2, same.
Good call. So for both crew members, set O2 actuator to EVA.
EV1 is an EVA.
So just double check EV2, your auto actuator is also in EVA, right?
By one in work. And Vapor, while you're working that, just wanted for baseline glove check. On my right index finger, I just noticed a small slice about 2 millimeters long in the RTV. And through it, I can see one single white string.
Houston Airlock, did you copy that initial baseline glove report from EV1?
And we copy talk right index finger on EV1, 2 to 4 millimeters long on the RTV, one small white string. Is there a length on that string?
No, it's kind of inside, so if I kind of open up, it's directly a straight slit. And if I open it up, I can kind of see a few strands. They're not sticking out. I can just see them kind of separated within the slice or within the cut.
Houston copies.
And he was in EVA.
Nice job, Baker. And for next step is for EV2. Stand by. Houston Airlock. Do we have a goal for further depress?
And talk, we have additional question for Anne for her right index finger on that string. Is it cut or loose in any way?
I'm trying to evaluate. It's I can't tell if it's cut. It does not look like as tightly woven as the other white thing, if you will. I assume, are you allowed to look at HECA right now?
And Anne, we copy. We are go for you to turn on your HECA. We would like to take a look at that.
I thought so. My HECA is on. I have a green light. Let me know when you're seeing it, and I'll try to give you a good view.
And we copy. We're putting that streaming in work now.
Copy.
And as part of a baseline glove and HAP check, NASA astronaut Anne McClain did report out some wear on one of her gloves. The team on the ground has asked Anne McClain to turn on her helmet camera and are going to take a look at that to get some more information.
EV1, this is Houston with follow-up question. We're still working on the streaming. It'll be about 3 to 5 minutes. While we wait, we're looking for a more clear location of where that string is. Is it on the middle of your finger or the edge?
Okay, if I'm looking at the side of my right index finger, is where the white back of the glove goes to the RTV. It is about half a centimeter below that. If the white is on top and the RTV is on the bottom, it's about half a centimeter below that. And it is not in the very first gap in the RTV toward the fingertip. It's in the next one down. Right on the, kind of on the edge of where the finger bends.
We copy, Ann. Thank you.
And Houston, for Sandy, if it helps, when I bend it, it's kind of right at the corner of where the finger bends. So when I bend it, it kind of opens up, the little cut opens up.
Perfect description. Thank you. We're chatting it. We'll be back with you in a little bit. Still working on streaming.
Okay.
And again, the team here on the ground is working to configure helmet cameras to get a better look after NASA astronaut Ann McClain reported a slice in her right index finger glove. The team on the ground, again, is working to configure those cameras just to get a better look at that. And we are getting views now of NASA astronaut Ann McClain's glove. We are holding pressure at 5 pounds per square inch so the team on the ground can get a better look at that reported slice on her right index finger glove.
AV1, this is Houston. We do have streaming, and we can see your glove now. If you want to move it a little closer, we can maybe get a closer view.
Okay, and I kind of see it's right at the bend. If I'm putting it in the wrong place, just let me know which direction to move. When it's straight, it's
if you could move
closed.
it away from the light, it's kind of bleaching it out, so more across your body. Perfect, and stand there. EV1, this is Houston. Thank you so much for your video. We are assessing and discussing it on the grounds.
Copy, thanks. Let me know if you need any other views.
And if you are just joining us this morning, we are holding at 5 pounds per square inch of pressure as the team here on the ground has turned on the helmet camera of NASA astronaut Anne McClain as she reported out a slice on her right index finger glove. The team is continuing to assess on the ground and get some more visual inspection of the glove.
EV1 Houston, back with you. Thank you so much for that video. Taking a look, it is a string from the turtle skin along your finger, along the seam of your finger. So we are going to continue with that being the case. Please check and keep an eye on it during your glove checks, but no additional checks needed other than keep reporting if you see anything more off nominal. When you are ready, we are go for you to turn your HECA off.
Thank you. Okay, I will turn that HECA off. Thank you. It is off.
Houston Airlock on 1, we copy that we are still close for picking up 7.
Airlock Houston, we are ready for you to resume the depress.
Copy that. So for EV2, you can open depress pump manual isolation valve and EV expect alert pump.
Depress pump now, iso valve is open.
And we will open emergency MPEG open on this side. For both crew members, monitor 50 gauge less than 5.0 windows greater than 5.5. Spot stop, depress, and check Houston.
V1 copy. AV2 copy.
And following visual inspection using the helmet camera on NASA astronaut Anne McClain's spacesuit, the team on the ground with today's spacewalk following a slice reported by NASA astronaut Anne McClain on her right glove. Depressurization has continued and is now back underway. Pressure approaching 4 pounds per square inch. The team on the ground did discuss having some additional checkouts of the glove throughout the spacesuit. That is part of the normal procedure. We have glove and what is called HAP, or helmet absorption pad checks, regularly throughout the entire spacewalk. And the pressure inside the crew lock is now 3 pounds per square inch. Once we do reach vacuum, or 0 pounds per square inch.
Step is for EV2. When crew lock at 2.0 psi, you can close depress pump manual isolation valve.
Copy.
Once vacuum is reached, some additional checks will take place with the ground before the spacesuits are switched onto internal battery power, which will mark the official start of today's spacewalk. NASA astronaut Johnny Kim and JAXA astronaut Kuya Anushi are continuing to step through procedures ahead of depressurization. We're nearing 2 pounds per square inch of pressure inside the crew lock at this time.
Restaurant man isolation valve is closed.
Copy, and the next step is for also EV2. On UIA, switch depress pump power to off, OFF.
Press pump power is off, OFF.
With that, and I will hand you guys over to Marcos on the ground for the data configuration check.
Copy. Great job today, Talk and Johnny. Thanks for getting us ready.
We'll wait for you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was awesome.
And
what a
in
great
vape for 10
what a great way
seconds,
to start.
so I'll hand over. We'll catch you on the other side.
Hey, Marcus.
And as pressure in the crew lock approaches 1 pound per square inch, we did have a handover to our ground IV, who is NASA astronaut Marcos Barrios, who is going to be communicating with NASA astronauts Anne McClain and Nicole Ayers during today's spacewalk. Again, the goal of today's spacewalk is to install a modification kit ahead of upcoming solar array upgrades, or IROSAs, as well.
For your essay, I've kind of shifted off to the right, so when we go to open the hatch, we'll have to do a little another shift. Okay.
Good morning, Anne and Vapor. The sun is shining outside the airlock right now, and we're ready to continue. So with that, we'll have you report our initial tether configuration.
Okay, and good morning, Marcos. This is EV1 Anne. I will start off and then hand off to Vapor. I will start with my right D-ring extender. I have a waist tether, locked, gate closed, slider lock, black on black. That right waist tether is connected to the EV2 safety tether. I see my right waist tether, gate closed, slider lock, black on black. That is hooked to EV2 safety tether anchor hook, gate closed, slider lock, black on black. That goes to her green reel, which is unlocked. See her yellow hook, it's attached to her green reel, gate closed, slider lock, black on black. The green hook of the green reel goes to her red reel, which is unlocked. Green hook is also unlocked. And then I'll pass that on to her for the rest of that tether that path, and then I'll give you my left side. Okay. I've got my small red hook on my right string extender. It closed the clock, black on black. My right waist tether is on my right D-ring extender. It closed the clock, black on black. That goes to the airlock D-ring extender. It is closed the clock, black on black. And then I've got a left waist tether on my left D-ring extender. That gate is closed the clock, black on black. And the large hook of my left waist tether is on my mini workstation. Right, so back to EV1. On my left D-ring extender, I have a waist tether, gate closed, slider lock, black on black. That hook just goes to my mini workstation. And then my safety tether, red hook, is on my left D-ring extender, gate closed, slider lock, black on black. Goes to my red reel, which is unlocked. To my red reel is my green hook, which is unlocked. From my red reel, my yellow hook is gate closed, slider lock, black on black, attached to my green reel, which is unlocked, and the anchor is on my workstation. I also have a single waist tether hooked to the airlock D-ring extender, and that's just hooked back to a handrail.
Copy, Anne and Vapor, and that is a good configuration. So next, when the change of pressure in the crew lock is approximately 0, expect an alert tone.
V1 copy. V2 copy.
And just as a reminder, we are going to pause for data review and a go from MCC before proceeding with hatch operations, Anne.
V1 copy.
And then as the airlock pressure drops below 0, there are two messages that you might get, just for your awareness. The first one is suit P high. If either of your met rates are very low, that is expected, no action. And the other is H2O is off. If the switch is in the off position for over a certain amount of time, that's also expected, no action needed on your part.
V1 copy. Thanks, Marcos. V2 copy.
Pressure inside the crew lock now approaching 1 pound per square inch as McClain and Ayers completed some checks here on the ground to make sure that their tethers were all configured properly. Pressure now less than 1 pound per square inch inside the crew lock with NASA astronauts Anne McClain and Nicole Ayers. Once the crew lock does reach vacuum, the duo will get the go to switch their suits onto battery power, which will mark the official beginning of today's spacewalk. In this view, back inside the International Space Station of JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi, who has been working with McClain and Ayers this morning to get them suited up, ready to go, and inside the crew lock, which is now at 0.86 pounds per square inch of pressure. Today's spacewalk will be the third for McClain and the first for Ayers, and the 275th spacewalk in support of space station maintenance, assembly, and upgrades. During today's spacewalk, McClain and Ayers will complete tasks to build and install a mounting bracket on the 2A power channel in preparation for the next delivery of ISS rollout solar arrays, or IROSAs, which will be delivered on a future flight. Additionally, they will relocate a communications antenna for visiting spacecraft to the International Space Station. Pressure inside the crew lock now at 0.75 pounds per square inch. Pressure inside the airlock now at 0.64 pounds per square inch. Once pressure does reach a vacuum, which is 0 pounds per square inch, the crew will be able to turn their spacesuits onto battery power, which will mark the official begin of today's spacewalk. And this view on your screen of NASA astronaut Marcos Berrios, who is the ground IV and will be interfacing with Ayers and McLean this morning.
And Vapor, I know you both heard this earlier today, but we just wanted to repeat it for your situational awareness. Throughout the EVA, we're going to have 4 prolonged KU band loss of signal. And so the impact there is that we will not have your HECA or station camera views. We will have S-band during that time, so we will be able to talk to you. That first one is coming up in about 30 minutes.
Do you want copies? Copy. And Marcos, how long are those expected to last?
And anywhere between 20 to 35, 40 minutes. We'll give you a heads up as to how long. The first one will be approximately 20 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Pressure inside the crew lock now at 0.51 pounds per square inch.
And in Vapor, we're showing the crew lock pressure less than 0.5, and we have a go from MCC to proceed with hatch operations.
Okay, I see the hatch gauge is reading 0.5.
Copy, and hatch gauge is less than 6 psi. You can open the EV hatch and stow it.
Copy and work. All right, great. I'm going to shimmy your way a little. Yep, you got room.
And with that, McLean and Ayers did get the go. The go to open up the hatch, so we will see them float out here shortly. First, they'll remove the cover of the hatch, and then we'll see them come out from that point.
coming down your way a little more. Okay. Okay, the EV hatch is open. Hatch is in the hatch key.
Copy, and TOC, you can close the emergency MPES.
Emergency MPES is closed.
Copy, TOC, and then and vapor, we're going to pause again here for another data review before continuing with the post-depress procedures.
If you want copies. You copy.
And vapor, for your situational awareness, one more message that you might receive is the SCU power avail. That is when we go to the bat on the power switch and the SCU is still connected for a certain amount of time. No action required.
You want copies?
And in vapor data review is complete. We have to go to continue. So on your DCM, we're going to stagger these switch throws, and you will go first. Take your power switch to bat. Expect a warning tone.
Power switch to bat. And I got the warning tone. Power is in bat with the warning tone.
You can take your display.
Marcos, my display is functional.
Copy and vapor, you can take your display switch to pro.
Display functional.
I copy vapor on the UIA power EV1 and 2 switch to off OFF, and you will check that the 1 and 2 LEDs are off as well.
Right, EV1 power is off. LEDs are off and volts are showing 0. Good, the H2O is off. Message for EV1, that's expected. And the power for EV2 is off, LEDs are off, and volts are showing 0. I also got the H2Os off and the 2P high.
Copy those messages. All right, for the both of you, you can disconnect your SCU from the DCM. You'll install the cover, and you'll stow the SCU in the pouch.
V1, SCU is removed in the pouch. My cover is back on my DCM.
Copy in.
And we are awaiting hatch opening here this morning. But prior to that, NASA astronauts Anne McClain and Nicole Ayers will switch their suits to battery power, which will mark the official begin of today's spacewalk.
Right, EVT SC is removed from the DCM in the pouch and cover is on.
Copy you both. Vapor, you can take the depress pump man ISO valve to close. That'd be a check, Vapor.
And Marcos for EV. Yeah, the depress pump and ISO valve is closed. And for EV1, I have a TCV 6.
TCV 6 for UN, copy. Both of you on your DCM, you can take your temperature control valve to max hot.
EV1 has temperature control valve and max hot. EV2 safe.
Take your water switch to on.
EV1, water is on. Water on.
Check that your DCM is blank, bites off.
DCM is blank for EV1, no bites.
And Vapor, apologies, I may have missed it if you called us with your DCM.
I'm sorry, the DCM is blank by lights off.
Copy. You can, both of you, take your temperature control valve as desired and let us know what it is, and then please keep us informed if you make those any TCV changes during the EVA.
Copy, and EV1 is at TCV6. 2, TCV5.
Copy 6 and 5 for EV1, EV2 respectively, and both of you can report your P-suit gauge.
EV1, CP gauge 4.2. Here's gauge 4.2.
Copy 4.2 for the both of you. Visors as required. The sun is out for the next 28 minutes.
And with suits now on battery power, the official start time of today's spacewalk is 8:05 a.m. Central Time this morning. First out of the hatch today will be NASA astronaut Anne McClain. She'll be wearing the spacesuit with the red stripes.
Going to be stepping into the procedures. So with that, and your first step is to open the hatch thermal cover.
Copy, I'll be opening the thermal cover, and I do see 6 lines visible on the AET.
Copy those.
And I'll be stowing it on the ring.
Good words. Once the thermal cover is open, you'll egress the airlock and turn your HECA on.
Copy. Right, it is stowed back onto the ring, and I still see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We copy?
And the thermal cover is now open.
EV1 is partially out of the airlock. Goes on.
Copy, and HECA is on. You're going to start by attaching your anchor hook to the aft airlock external D-ring.
Copy, that's in work.
And Vapor, for you as you wait.
Vapor.
And And then once you have your anchor hook, Vapors is going to go on the forward airlock external D-ring, and Vapor, as you wait next for you, is going to be handing out either the cable bag or the strap bag. You just let us know.
All right, Marcos, my safety tether is attached to the aft, D-ring extender, and gate closed slider lock black on black. I'll be working on Vapors.
Copy.
And first out of the airlock is NASA astronaut Anne McClain. This is the third spacewalk of her career. She's again wearing the spacesuit with the red stripes. Next up will be Nicole Ayers, her first spacewalk today. She'll be wearing the unmarked spacesuit. First order of business for our spacewalkers today will be to...
Right, EV2, safety tether anchor is on the forward airlock D-ring, gate closed, slider locked, black on black.
Copy. And you can give Vapor a go to release her waist tether from the airlock D-ring extender when it's applicable, and then next will be to receive the bag from Vapor.
Okay. So Vapor, you can do your waist tether anytime you want. You have a good tether path. Okay, copy that. I've got the cable bag. I see it. Out, ready for you. I'm coming into a good position to grab it here. Okay, one by one.
First order of business for McClain and Ayers will be to get the 8-foot-long strut bag out of the airlock, as well as the tool bag that will be utilized during today's spacewalk. They'll then translate to the port side of the International Space Station, heading to the work site of the modification kit structure, or mod kit.
Okay, so we're going to cable bag first. Copy. All right, stand by one. I'm about to grab it with my BRT ret. Copy. All right, my BRT ret is on the cable bag. You are good to release the airlock, large, small. And I have my BRT on that as well. Okay, the airlock ret is released. Copy. So this for translation, and then my hand to help you with EV3.
And Vapor, you'll put that ret on the airlock D-ring extender.
Marcus, I threw it on the airlock D-ring to leave the extender free. That works.
Copy that. That works. Thanks.
And if you're just joining us, we are now 12 minutes into the 275th spacewalk outside the International Space Station.
I kind of shimmy back toward you a little bit. Okay.
Today's spacewalk began at 8:05 a.m. Central. NASA astronaut Anne McClain is outside of the airlock. She's wearing the spacesuit with the red stripes. Nicole Ayers is working to get out of the airlock as well. She'll be wearing the unmarked spacesuit today. The goal of today's spacewalk is to complete a modification kit build and installation on the International Space Station ahead of upcoming solar array upgrades, as well as relocate a common communications for visiting vehicles antenna, otherwise known as C2V2.
And then it kind of got pulled aft. Okay, I do have a hand on it. I'm not ready to it, so let's go. And to help it, pulling it here.
At this time, McClain and Ayers are working to remove the strut bag from the crew lock, as well as the tool bag that will be utilized during today's spacewalk.
So if you just stabilize it, I can get my ret on it. Okay. ret on it. Copy. We'll release the airlock ret. Okay. Okay, the airlock ret is released, and Marcus, I'm just going to let that send back to the handrail.
Copy that, Vapor.
Should just need one on the way in. Vapor. Right. So I'm going to position myself around to the aft and give you the forward to mount.
The strut bag that McLean and Ayers are working to get out of the airlock is about 8 feet long, and it contains the pieces of the modification kit that will be assembled during today's spacewalk.
ESC is back in the pouch. Both are good. Copy. I think you're clear to egress. Got the forward side.
And those are good words. And if you have a free hand, it looks like your HECA was turned off, so if you can turn it back on for us, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, it's back on. Green light.
Copy. And after you've egressed Vapor, next will be to put that strut bag on your BRT, and I'll have more words for you.
And now out of the hatch is NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers. Again, today is her first spacewalk, and this is the third for NASA astronaut Ann McLean in the suit with the red stripes.
Hazard and everything get situated before we hand off.
And a Vapor question for you, whether or not you wanted to do the translation adaptation with or without the strut bag.
I feel like I did a lot of translation adaptation in the airlock, but
Yeah, whatever you feel comfortable
I'm
is for you. Copy.
Everybody's okay with that, yeah.
Copy that. Then you can continue with the strut bag. Tape towards your head.
All right, you can kind of GCA me because I can't totally see the handrail. Okay, so the is towards my head. Tape it a little bit.
We'll get your ret to the non-taped end of the handrail stanchion, Vapor.
Copy. And now move it, hold it right there. Okay, we're good. Yep. Okay, my ret is on the non-taped end. The hammer. Okay, you have a ret on it? I do. Okay, before you pull it your way, I'm going to take my ret off. Copy. Okay, my ret's off. Back on my end of yes. All right, how can I help you get this situated here? my BRT on it now. T is on it. Basically, the end that's by my feet is up towards. I get mine back where it was. There, I'm going to put this adjustable on my spinning workstation. Okay.
And now out of the airlock is also that strut bag, that long 8-foot long strut bag that has the pieces of the modification kit that will be assembled and installed during today's spacewalk. And we are getting a view from NASA astronaut Ann McClain's helmet camera here.
Okay. We're done.
Good job, the both of you. And Vapor will have you turn your HECA on.
Okay.
And we'll go with buddy checks after.
Okay.
With the strut bag and the tool bag out of the airlock, McClain and Ayers will now work to translate to the port side of the space station.
I can see your spacer handles down. I can see your HECA light. I've got your HECA light, and I've got 3 tabs up. So your left spacer handle is down. Now to your left just a bit, right spacer handle is down, so both spacer handles are down. And your tools and tethers look pretty clean to me. Let me have your camera real quick. Have a tether that.
And can you confirm that both of Vapor's safer handles are down?
Yes, her safer handles are down.
Copy that. We'll get a baseline half check from the both of you.
And my half for EV1 is dry. Yep, can you lean forward a little bit? My half is dry as well for EV2. Alright, back on. Nicely done.
Copy that. Nicely done. We can close the thermal cover now, and as that's being closed, I'll read 2 cautions before you start translating. Vapor, for you with a strut bag on, we're going to limit your translation speed, so think very slow, 0.7 feet per second. And then just as a reminder, you've got the test cables on phase 1, and nadir and zenith, where the cedar rails are.
Copy all.
It's 2 minutes until TDRS handover and also KU handover, so we'll lose video for 16 minutes.
1 copy. Thermal covers closed.
Copy, thermal covers closed. We can start translating port for the both of you. Vapor, you are going to lead. First step is going to be green hook drop off.
Okay. Great. Did work.
And with the thermal cover now closed, both McClain and Ayers will work to translate to the port side of the International Space Station, which is the work site of the modification kit structure for today. You also heard the duo perform what is called buddy checks. This is essentially a check to make sure everything on their spacesuit is working and looking as expected. These will take place throughout the spacewalk and include looking at gloves, looking at the helmet absorption pad, as well as making sure that their safer is in the proper configuration.
Copy.
We are approaching a period of time where we will not have visual of the crew during a longer handover period. It will last about 16 minutes. However, we will be able to communicate with them still during this handover period. These handover periods are expected and occur due to handover between satellites.
On the speed of right.
And can we have you pause for a second, take a look back at the airlock and see if the thermal cover is still on? We believe it may have popped open.
It popped open.
Copy that. If you don't mind going back to close it, we'd appreciate it.
More. And on the feed rail, transiting port.
And before the loss of signal, the team on the ground did notice that the thermal cover had opened back up, so McLean is going to translate back over to the airlock to ensure that that thermal cover is closed.
Thermal cover is back closed.
Copy, yeah, appreciate it. And Vapor, as you approach the FHRC, your green hook is going to be handrail 3651. It is the nadir one.
Nadir handrail at the FHRC. Can I come back up to see the spur?
Copy, Ann.
EV1's on phase 1.
Copy, Ann. You'll continue port to your green hook location. It'll be the Zenith handrail 3652.
Copy. Vapor bag's looking good. It is big. I will say that much. What? It's a large bag. Yes, it is.
And if you're just joining us today, we are in the midst of a spacewalk. We are now 28 minutes into today's spacewalk to complete a modification kit installation on the 2A location of the International Space Station shown there on your screen. Previously, we have installed other International Space Station rollout solar arrays, or IROSAs, on the other locations that you see. At this time, NASA astronauts Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers, who are doing their third and first spacewalk respectively are translating to the 2A location, where they will begin to build the modification kit and attach it to that location that you see on your screen. And you may recall that over the past couple of years, we've continued to work to upgrade the power channels on the space station. Today's mounting bracket installation on 2A sets us up to have that array installed at a later date. The current solar arrays are functioning well, but have begun to show signs of degradation as expected, as they were designed for a 15-year service life. And this year we are celebrating 25 years of continuous human presence on board the International Space Station. Once the new solar arrays are positioned in front of the other arrays, the current arrays, the station's total available power will increase from 160 kilowatts to a maximum of 215 kilowatts.
Copy Vapor. Hand roll 3651 to Nader 1.
Additionally, during today's spacewalk, McLean and Ayers will work to relocate a common communications for visiting vehicle antenna, or C2V2, 1.5 feet over to provide better redundancy for visiting spacecraft at the International Space Station.
My greenhouse is on 3651.
Copy Vapor. Once that's complete, you'll continue port to the worksite. Just make sure your gauntlets are in place prior to crossing the Sarge.
Gauntlets are in place.
Copy Vapor, and then 2 cautions at the worksite. Do not touch the radiator or the flex hoses, and do not translate on that PVR base handrail. And
I'm at 3652 and working on the green hook.
we copy and thanks. And the Vapor, you're going to be going nadir at the Sarge to your worksite, and you will be fair leading along the inboard non-radiator corner of the IEA before dropping the strut back.
At this time, McLean and Ayers are continuing to translate to the port side of the International Space Station, heading to the work site of the modification kit structure for today. Once they are at that location, they will secure their 2 bags, the tool bag and the 8-foot-long strut bag, and begin the installation activity. Ayers will start the modification activity by removing the strut out of the bag and assembling what is called an upper triangle, consisting of several pieces. It consists of 2 struts and a mounting bracket. Ayers will then hand that assembled triangle to McLean, who will install it on the mass canister of the Beta Gimbal Assembly, or BGA. The duo will be utilizing the pistol grip tool, or PGT, to secure it to the Beta Gimbal Assembly.
The method Sarge gauntlets are still down.
Say again for ground IV.
Issues at the Sarge gauntlets still down. And EV1's got green hook on 3652.
Copy, and just ensure that your gauntlets are down and do not touch the radiator flick hoses or the base handrail.
EV1 copy. Gauntlets are down.
Copy, gauntlets. Next for you then, Anne, is continue to translate port to the worksite. You're going to be stowing the cable bag and putting the IROSA cable just external to the bag. No fair lead required.
EV1 copy. Visiting aft on the IEA.
Copy. And as a reminder, you'll fair lead there at that inboard corner vapor, and then you'll proceed with the strut bag drop-off.
Right.